to Stream. My name is Jordan.
My name is Jeremy, and as you can see, we got my other housemate, Jordan, here co-hosting Stream with us today. Because Nick, he couldn't make it today because he's at his brother's wedding. So, a shout out to Nick's brother. You clearly watched Stream last week on relationships. So, hey, shout out, congrats. If you're watching this right now,
congrats,
I'm not sure if you are. You might be getting married right now, but hey, congrats to you. All right, so you might remember Jordan from a couple weeks ago when we had a Stream episode about being a shaker. There's us.
Sounds like a lifetime ago. But hey, Jeremy, I'm really thankful to be back. It looks like you guys made some nice improvements to the place.
That's right. Here at Stream, we're about leveling up, even the studio.
Boo. Anyway, we're live here in the Bay Area in California, and Jeremy and I are mentors with Area Youth Ministry, also known as AYM. And we're just about helping college students and high schoolers share about Jesus with youth and enable them to share about that same good news with others as well.
All right, so here at Stream, we gather online to talk about life learning, share stories, and create community. And Jordan, do you know what today is?
No, what is today?
All right, so today is actually a very special, it's the kickoff for Focus 2020. So if today's your first time here, either because you're here joining us for Focus or it's just your first time here at Stream, please put the word first in the chat so that we can welcome you. Welcome everyone, we're really glad you're here.
That's the first?
Anyway, right.
Well, one way that you can also get connected here is through Stream teams. And those are just small groups of students that break out and meet together to discuss and get to know each other during Stream. And I've been hanging out with the upperclassmen Stream team these past couple weeks. It's been a lot of fun getting to know everybody. And in any case, we'll have a chance for everyone to join a Stream team just a bit later, but shout out to Upstream.
Yeah, make sure to watch out for that time. Dude, Stream teams, it's a pretty awesome time. It's a pretty awesome time. Now, before we get started, I just want to say two things. Number one, here at Stream, we're a family, so let's make sure that in the chat we keep things positive and encouraging. Don't put anything inappropriate or discouraging there. Number two, if you're part of our middle school ministry or you're under the age of 13, please make sure that you're watching Stream with a parent or guardian. All right, so Jordan, let's get started. What are we talking about today?
Well, today is actually our last part of our series on ships. And last week in our ship series, we talked about the topic of relationships.
Dude, last week, that was pretty fun. Personally, last week may have been like the most fun time of Stream we've had, actually. There were some really funny but memorable stories from our friends who are married, and they just gave us different advice about this topic of relationships. And, I got to show off my apple cutting skills.
I think there was a reason that Nick won that competition. But that advice that our friends gave was really good about how we can grow as loving friends now and not just focus on trying to find the one, but also becoming the one who's able to care for somebody properly.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about stewardship. Now, stewardship, it's not like sportsmanship where it's like an award for doing good sports and stewardship is an award for like making good stew, but instead, stewardship is actually, it means taking care of something that you are responsible for.
Yeah, so one way that I got to experience that was actually just after I had gotten my driver's license. And so I was going into work with my friend Josh, and he had just gotten this really nice new car. And there was one day that we had to go different ways, but instead of saying, hey, get another ride, he said, hey, why don't you take my car? And I was like, shoot, really? And I was so terrified I was going to scratch that thing or wreck it, but I was really appreciative of how Josh was willing to entrust something so valuable to me.
Man, maybe some of y'all watching right now might be learning how to drive and feel that same feeling Jordan had as you borrow your parents' cars and stuff like that. But yeah, Jordan, when I was in high school, this whole idea of being responsible for things, I kind of felt like I wasn't really responsible for much. I didn't have a pet to take care of, and I guess the only thing I was responsible for was my grades. But other than that, I just often felt like I'm not really in charge of much. I'm not really in charge of anything. So stewardship is actually a big part of Christianity, part of Christian life. But the first thing I think of is what am I a steward of? What am I responsible for? And my second question is, how can I be a good steward of that thing? So, we actually invited one of our good friends and a fellow youth mentor, Noah, to talk about this topic in this week's segment of Real Talk. All right, so as you can see, we got my good friend Noah right here. And if you've been here since stream day 1, I actually mentioned Noah in the very first week. When we talked about... Sorry, I got a little... ate some chips before this.
COVID.
We talked about... I mentioned Noah in the first week when I talked about what it means to be a mover. And I'm actually really thankful for Noah in my life because when I was in high school, he was a mover who approached me and actually... Okay, well, he became my friend, and through that, I started going to youth group and actually became Christian. So, hey, thank you, Noah.
No problem.
Thank you.
Dude.
That was good. That was a good time. That was a good time. But yeah, welcome. Really glad that you're here.
Cool. So why am I here? What am I talking about, Jeremy?
All right. So we invited you here to talk about this idea of stewardship. Like there's this idea of I'm responsible for something, but it's not mine. Like Jordan was responsible for that car for a little bit, but it wasn't his car.
Yeah.
But then, I know that in Christianity, in the Bible, we talk about being stewards of our life. But then that makes me think, like, does that mean that I don't own my life? It's like a car that I'm driving for a little bit, but then it's not really mine. So just wanted to, ask that question and just other questions to you about what you think about this topic.
Sure. Yeah, so let's start there. Talking about stewardship, right? Like the Bible says everything we have, like our gifts, our opportunities, our time, like our lives themselves are not ours. God has given it to us. And yeah, like you're saying, I think that can feel a little bit like, wait, you're saying I'm not in control of my life? Like that feels so instinctually true, right? But I think that's actually a really empowering and exciting truth that our lives don't belong to us, but have been entrusted to us by God. And I think in a big way, it's an antidote to something like I think a lot of people in our culture feel, which is this issue of being lost, of lostness, right? Like our culture tells us, hey, there's no God, you're here by chance, it's all an accident. Yeah. Right, but if you really think through like the implications of that means there is no purpose to human life. It's all random. But against this, the Bible says, nah, like God made you, God has a purpose for your life. And so I think as we think about being stewards and what it means to be a good steward, we're really talking about like, man, how can we fulfill this awesome potential that God has for our lives? So yeah, something exciting I think. And maybe I can share a story that I think illustrates what it means to be a good steward. And it's a story that Jesus told. So in this story, there's a master who has some servants, and he entrusts each of these servants with some money. And I think we have the Bible text up on the screen. There, maybe. So it says, "For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property." Okay, so to one he gave 5 talents, and a talent is a sum of money. Actually, some scholars say a single talent was worth like 20 years of wages.
20 years. That's
20 years.
Dude, that's older than I think most of the people watching this right now.
Yeah, so that's a lot of money. We're talking millions of dollars here, right? He gave one guy 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent...
Hey, let me guess. He made 1 talent more.
He went and he dug in the ground and he hid his master's money.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is a little crazy, right? Because like if you know anything about money, you don't just put money in the ground because it depreciates with inflation. Like you invest it or you put it in the bank or something. But I think this is really interesting because if we think about this story, right, as a metaphor for life, and if we think about these talents as a metaphor for everything God has entrusted us with, I think what we're seeing here in the 1 talent guy is a guy who just misses out on his potential. And I think the story is going to kind of give us a psychological insight into why that might be. But yeah, continuing with the story, so the master, he comes back from this journey, right? And the Bible tells us the guy with the 5 talents, he comes up to him and he says, "Master, hey, you know what? I invested the 5 talents you gave me, and here, I made 5 talents more." And his master, "Hey, do you want to be the master, actually?"
All right, okay. I'll be the master.
All right,
so I'm the master. I just came back. It's like, all right.
So here's your 5. You gave me 5 talents, and I'm giving you back 10. So the master says...
You 10 talents? All right. So, okay, his master said, "Well done, good and faithful servants. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master."
All right, thank you. I'm feeling embarrassed for you, so I'll just read through the rest. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward saying, "Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I've made 2 talents more." And why don't you do it one more time? His master said to him...
All right, this is a master voice. It's like Thor kind of voice. All right. "Well done, good and faithful servants. You have been faithful over a little. I'll set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master."
I love this Norwegian, Jewish language. So and then the 1 talent guy, he also had received the 1 talent. He comes forward and he says, "Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and I hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours." And the master answers him, and I'll just summarize this. He says, "You're wicked and lazy. Why didn't you at least put the money in the bank?" So I'm going to take his talent away, give it to the guy who is trustworthy, who made 10 talents. For everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. So I want to zoom in on this 1 talent guy. Okay. So the 5 talent guy, the 2 talent guy, they invest the money they're given. They have a great return. They get congratulated by their master. They're good stewards. But this 1 talent guy, he just buries the money in the ground. And I think the 10 talent question of the day is why, right? Like, why does he do this? So I think as we look at this story, I think maybe there's at least 3 reasons why that might be. And I think the first is comparison, right? So this guy, he's got 1 talent, and the other guys have 5 and 2. And I think maybe for this guy, he's not able to appreciate the fact that he's just been handed like $2 million, because when he's with the 5 talent guy, he just feels like he has negative 4 talents. And when he's with the two talent guy, he just feels like he has negative 1 talents, right? And I think sometimes like we miss out on seeing what God has given us, because like there's this weird thing about human nature, right? We're always comparing ourselves with other people, and we're not able to see the things that God has given us as blessings, but we just see them as deficiencies instead of as opportunities, right? So the reality is God has made us different, and I think that's a good thing, right? God doesn't just like stamp us out in plastic molds. And I worked on this phrase, okay? In our diversity, we give testimony to the boundless breadth of God's creativity.
Ooh. You gotta say that one more time. You gotta say that one more time.
Okay, so in our diversity, we give testimony to the boundless breadth of God's creativity.
That's good stuff.
So I want to invite you guys, don't see the thing that you feel like maybe is a deficiency, maybe that's an opportunity, right? So like, let's say, I don't know if you're dating or not, but let's say Jordan is single, right? And Jeremy, you're dating. And we're trying to be relevant to last week. And maybe Jordan feels like that's a deficiency, right? But I would say, Jordan, that's not a deficiency. Like your singleness right now in this season, that's a blessing. And maybe you can use your singleness, like we talked about last week, as an opportunity, right? To build relationships with other guys, to like grow, to read books. I don't know, use all that time that you would have otherwise spent to equip yourself and to grow and become someone God can use. So I think comparison is one thing that can hold someone back from fulfilling their potential.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that we see maybe in the story is fear of failure, right? So maybe this 1 talent guy, maybe he didn't bother investing because investing is scary. There's risk.
That's right.
Like, you can make money, but you can also lose it all, right? And I think sometimes like God's calling us to step out in faith, to take a risk, and we miss those opportunities because we're so afraid of failure. But I think, one of the cool things about the way God works, and it's a pattern throughout Scripture, is that when we step out in faith, when we give what little we have, God can multiply that, and He can even use the failures to strengthen us, to bless us in unexpected ways. A couple years ago, me and my friends, Stefan, Stefan, he was on the tennis team with you.
That's right. You remember Stefan? Stefan, shout out to Stefan if you're watching this right now. Also a mover.
So me, Stefan, some of our friends were like, hey, let's do something crazy for God. So we moved to Chicago to start a church. And I had this sheet printed out above my desk in Chicago, and it said 1, 10, and 100 on it. And that was sort of like our kind of goals that we set. And it was to have 1 person join us as like a staff, 10 people come to know Christ, and 100 people come out to Bible study or come out to church.
And how do you guys do?
We failed. Like we did not hit those goals remotely, right? But and I think if we had seen that and said, hey, we're not going to do that because we're going to fail, like we would have missed out on so much. Because even though we didn't hit our goals, like we grew so much, we did get to experience people coming to know God. People who never otherwise would have come to church came to church and heard the gospel for the first time. So I want to challenge you guys. Take risks. Don't be afraid of failure, because God can use whatever you offer really, and use it in unexpected ways.
So that's 2 reasons right there.
Yeah. What do we talk about so far?
All right. So we got comparison.
Yeah.
Comparison. We also got that fear of failure.
Fear of failure. Okay. So thirdly, the last thing I want to talk about, the last reason this guy I think misses out on his potential, and it's what he actually explicitly says. So he says when the master shows up, he tells him something like, okay, I was afraid you were a hard man, reaping where you did not sow. It sounds kind of confusing, but basically he's saying something like, okay, the reason I didn't invest the money you gave me is because I know you're the kind of guy who, if I made all this money, you would take it. And the master's like, yeah, like you're my servant, that's your job. But the servant's like, I didn't see anything in it for me, so here's your money back, at least I didn't steal. Right, so the servant, he's kind of a weird, bitter guy. Like he kind of, you can tell he kind of resents the fact that he's a servant. And I think sometimes we can be like this towards God. And it's, think about this, even if you're not a Christian, like a lot of people can have just sort of a general bitterness and sense of resentment towards life. Like, I'm a victim. And I think when we slip into that sort of bitterness, we miss out on so much. So I think God, right? God is calling us, he gives us commands, right? Like, tells us to love people, to share the gospel, to serve others. And I think there's part of us that can be like, man, God is just out to use me, God is just out to get me. But the Bible says God is for us. God is not against us. And Jesus says it's more blessed to give than to receive, right? And I think that actually makes sense because like I want to say intuitively, instinctually, right? Instinctually.
Yeah.
Okay, like instinctually, you want to just lie on the couch and like order Uber Eats, right? And like the saddest thing in your life is that the Uber Eats guy can't come in. So you actually have to get off the couch to like open the door, right? Like when we're left to our own devices, we just want to like, I don't know, give into our desire for comfort. But if you
that sounds like it'd be fun, but then it sounds like it would get like real sad, real fast,
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we actually experience is when we lose ourselves in serving others and loving other people, that's when we're most happy, right? So God, he's inviting us, right? God is not trying to exploit us. God is saying, hey, I want you to join with me. I want to entrust you with things. I want you to use what I've entrusted you to join with me in touching people's lives, making a difference, bringing my healing to a broken world. So I hope you don't miss out on that. I hope you guys can not compare yourself, right? Celebrate the way God has made you.
That phrase that you said.
What's the second thing? What is the second thing I talked about?
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure. Don't be afraid of failure. Take risks. And third, trust God. Trust that God is for you, and that being in the center of his will is the safest place to be. So yeah, that's the word of encouragement I'd like to bring today. I hope we can all grow to be good stewards. And yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
Hey, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Noah.
No problem.
Since you're here on stream, actually, would you mind helping us out with this next section, actually?
Sure.
All right, so we actually got a section coming up right now that we're about to play. So I'll see you in 5 seconds for this next section called Covered.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
There's a song that stirs the spirit, and it calls his heart to life. There's a anthem in the making. Can you feel it start to rise? Can you hear the generations getting louder over time? Every son and every daughter singing out into the night. It's not time to be silent. Don't you dare hide your light. There's a world outside your window, so don't let it pass you by. Lift your hands to the heavens, lift your voice to the skies. Praise the Lord of all creation, let his name be lifted high. Singing, oh, from the palace to the streets, I can feel that drum beat pulsing, and it's calling you and me. I can hear the world awaken, oh the sound is heavenly. Every tribe and every nation singing Jesus I believe. It's not time to be silent, don't you dare hide your light. There's a world outside your window, so don't let it pass you by. Lift your hands to the heavens, lift your voice to the skies. Praise the Lord of all creation, let his name be lifted
See the strongholds break in the blink of an eye. Death and all our sin nowhere inside. For the Lord, He is alive. See the lost return from the dead of the night. Every captive free, every chain left behind. Have you ever seen such a beautiful sight? All the world coming alive. See the world light up one heart at a time. See the strongholds break in the blink of an eye. Death and all our sin nowhere inside. For the Lord, He is alive. See the lost return from the dead of the night. Every captive free, every chain left behind. Have you ever seen such a beautiful sight? All the world coming alive, singing, oh, 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 It's not time to be silent. Don't you dare hide your light. There's a world outside your window, so don't let it pass you by.
Oh man, so Noah, thank you for sharing those words earlier about stewardship, and thank you for being on this week's section of Covered. So thank you very much. I think it's so true that as Christ followers, we have things of immense value to steward, like our lives and the gospel message we received, and those 3 points that Noah talked about. I think, man, that's really relatable. I mean, that's relatable for me now, I think, and I'm just thinking as a high schooler, that's super relatable. You know, that aspect of like comparison. It's like, oh man, I don't have as much as that person, or that thought of fear of failure, like, am I gonna mess up, or even just that aspect of like bitterness. So I'm really glad that Noah shared about that, and just encourage all of you guys now that maybe if you have felt those things or are feeling some of those things now, to maybe just look at this truth about stewardship, that is something that this awesome gift that we have.
Yeah, for sure. I still experience all of those feelings all the time, and it can feel pretty intimidating. Just to think that I'm responsible for something that big as the gospel.
But I think one mindset shift is that God's not he's not like a really bad teacher. He doesn't just give you a long list of assignments and say, all right, good luck with that, turn it in at the end of the month. But instead he entrusts us with something that is really, really precious, because he wants us to experience the joy of getting caught up in his good work.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me of when I had just graduated from college, and I wanted to spend that first year out to move across the country and start a new college fellowship at Carnegie Mellon.
Dude, that's pretty exciting, Jordan. How was that?
It was really cool, but I didn't have a job because I had just graduated. I couldn't pay rent. But then my church said, hey, it's okay. We'll cover the rent. We'll cover your living expenses. Just go. And that was a huge privilege to receive that kind of support. And truthfully, sometimes it did feel like a lot of pressure. But on the other hand, it was even more exciting to be part of seeing a church being built up from the ground and seeing people coming and being saved. And as more and more people came to join our group and they just started to feel like family, I really got to experience firsthand that God really was there among us.
Dude, hey, thanks for sharing, Jordan. I think in the same way you got to experience being part of that awesome work. I really encourage all of you watching. Maybe there's something that you get to be part of right now. One thing that we all get to be part of right now is this thing that we mentioned earlier called Stream Teams. Stream Teams. So right now, Stream Teams is a small group of other students and some youth mentors that are going to, like Jordan, they're gonna just gonna hang out and talk a little bit about what we just talked about. So actually, check the description box right now for the links. I'll give you 2 seconds to scroll down, or just click that expandy button right there. Look for the links for Stream Team, and you're gonna go to your Stream Team. So right now it is it 8 o'clock on the dot? It's roughly 8. Oh, it's 8:57 right. It's all right. Come back at 8:10. Come back at 8:10. No, come back at 8:10? Yes. All right, come back at 8:10, everyone. Come back in 10 minutes. And because, Nick, even though he's not here right now, he actually prepared a special wrap-up rap. Y'all gave him a lot of positive feedback for his rap, his freestyle rap he did a couple weeks ago. So he actually made it and produced a full music video for us today. So we're gonna show that in 10 minutes. So go to Stream Teams right now. Link is in the description, and come back in 10 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. As you can see, Jordan is with his stream team right now, so shout out to Jordan's stream team. All right, so as promised, here we got a wrap-up of the last 4-week series, including today, from our friend Nick. So let's roll it.
I'm sorry I couldn't be at stream tonight, y'all. I'm at my older brother's wedding. But I wrote this rap to make up for my absence. Hope y'all enjoy. Yo, we got 4 shifts to cultivate in our Christian lives today. This series is done, but that don't mean the concepts go away. 4 weeks is a long time, so here's the wrap up. So listen up closely and take in the summary for all of y'all's memories. So now lost in history, go section by section for sake of simplicity. Worship is worship. If there's God, how do you relate to him? Well, and knowing his word, so he doesn't stay blurred. Look at Christ, John 1, he is the word. Now the second ship is friendship. Who you gonna lean on in times of need? I got Jeremy and other friends I see. Find a couple peers and sing lean on me, cause life gets tough and rough, and our faith gets caught in a rut. But that's what people who can step in, share and lift them prayers. We the stream family, join them stream teams, and please don't feel despair. They're the place to be, and that's the first 2 shifts. We're already halfway there. Third ship, relationship. Man, who should I date and marry? Scary, don't feel harried and carried by feelings. Recall our friends' sharings. Don't look for the one, let's try to be the one. All together, don't look for the one, let's try to be the one. Singleness is a precious time. Yo, out of 10 for sure a dime. Growing your friendships, the best way to prepare for a relationship. Nothing wrong with dating, just gotta honor God in that relating. Be patient in God's timing. Lift up prayers instead of slowly crying. Last ship is stewardship. Our lives are God's entrustment, and it's an adjustment to cherish this situation and push back self-deflation. Got the gospel reach the nations. Be faithful in any station. Let that be our dedication. So there you have it. That's the wrap up on the ship series. There's worship, friendship, relationship, and stewardship. These are some fundamental areas that we need to hone in and grow in within our Christian lives. Hope y'all learned a lot and enjoyed sailing with us in this journey. MC Nick out.
Hey, thanks for that wrap up, Nick. That was solid.
Dude, that was a bop. That was a bop. Let's get it, Nick. Thank you so much. All right, so as we mentioned earlier, tonight is the kickoff of Focus 2020. So, everyone, if you look in the description right now, there's a link to youthretreat.org. So actually, right after this is done, head on over there. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be super, super cool. So, shout out to my friends that came for Focus. David, I see you. All right, so you know what? That's all we got for today. So everyone, head over to Focus, youthretreat.org. It's in the description box right now. And we will see you there. All right, so from the stream team to you, we're out.